Inherited a house in Oregon? Watch this before you do anything. Inheriting a property can feel overwhelming, especially when you're grieving and suddenly responsible for a house you didn't plan for. In this video, I walk through the most common challenges Oregon heirs face: probate, taxes, family disputes, deferred maintenance, and more, plus what your options are. Call us at 503-308-9707 or visit vortexrei.com if you want to talk through your situation. If you've recently inherited a home, first, I'm sorry for your loss. That's where this usually starts, and it's not easy. And on top of the grief, you've suddenly got this very real, very complicated thing sitting in front of you: a house. Maybe it's in great shape. Maybe it hasn't been touched in 20 years. Maybe you have siblings who all have opinions about what to do with it. Maybe there's a mortgage still on it. Maybe you don't even know yet. Inherited properties come with challenges that most people are completely unprepared for, and the decisions you make in the first few months can have major financial consequences. My name is Julie with Vortex REI. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the most common challenges Oregon heirs face when they inherit a property, and what your options are at each step. Let's get into it. The first challenge most heirs run into is probate. If you're not familiar with that word, probate is the legal process of validating a deceased person's will and transferring their assets, including real estate, to the rightful heirs. In Oregon, if the estate is worth more than $275,000 or more than $200,000 in real property alone, it typically has to go through the probate court. That process can take anywhere from 6 months to over a year, depending on the complexity of the estate and whether there's any dispute. During probate, you generally can't sell the property without court approval. So if you're thinking, I just want to sell this quickly and move on, you may have to wait. That's frustrating, but it's the reality for most inherited properties in Oregon. There are exceptions. If the property was held in a living trust, or if it passes via a transfer on death deed, which Oregon has allowed since 2012, it can bypass probate entirely. That's something to check with the estate attorney right away. Bottom line on probate: get an estate attorney involved early. Don't try to navigate this alone. And while you wait, make sure the property is insured and the utilities are handled, because a vacant home creates its own risks. The second big challenge is taxes, and there are actually a few different tax issues that can come up with inherited property. The first is capital gains tax. Here's something that surprises a lot of people. When you inherit a home, you get what's called a stepped-up basis. That means the property's cost basis, for tax purposes, is reset to its fair market value at the time of the original owner's death, not what they paid for it decades ago. So if your parent bought the home in 1985 for $80,000 and it's worth $400,000 today when you inherit it, your basis is $400,000. If you sell it shortly after for $400,000, you owe little to no capital gains tax. That's a significant benefit, but it only works if you act relatively quickly after inheriting. Oregon does not have an inheritance tax, but it does have an estate tax. In 2024, Oregon's estate tax kicks in on estates valued over $1 million, one of the lower thresholds in the country. If the estate is large enough to be affected, that tax has to be paid before assets are fully distributed. And don't forget ongoing property taxes. The moment you inherit a property, you become responsible for keeping those current. A vacant inherited home that falls behind on property taxes can create a whole new set of legal problems. I always recommend sitting down with a CPA who knows Oregon estate law before making any decisions. The tax implications of when and how you sell can be significant. Here's one that doesn't get talked about enough. What happens when multiple people inherit the same property? It's extremely common for a parent to leave a home equally to 2, 3, or 4 siblings. And immediately, you have co-owners who may have very different opinions about what to do. One wants to sell. One wants to rent it out. One wants to keep it in the family. One lives out of state and just wants cash. When heirs can't agree, things can get complicated and expensive. In Oregon, any co-owner of a property can file what's called a partition action in court, essentially forcing the sale or physical division of the property. Courts generally prefer to order a sale over splitting a single-family home, which means a judge, not the family, ends up making the decision. And legal fees eat into everyone's share. The best outcome is always a family agreement reached before it gets to that point. If there are multiple heirs involved in your situation, I'd strongly encourage a direct conversation early, ideally with a mediator or attorney present, to get everyone aligned on a plan. Even if probate goes smoothly and the family agrees on a plan, there's still the physical reality of the property itself. Many inherited homes have what's called deferred maintenance, repairs and updates that the previous owner put off for years. An aging roof, outdated electrical, old plumbing, sometimes serious issues like mold or a failing foundation. These aren't small numbers. A full roof replacement in Oregon can run $15,000 to $30,000. Foundation work can exceed that. Here's the trap many heirs fall into. They assume they need to fix everything before selling. They spend $40,000 on renovations, then sell for only $30,000 more than they would have gotten as is. That math doesn't always work in your favor. The alternative is selling the property as is, to a buyer who specializes in homes that need work. You'll typically get a lower price, but you avoid the time, stress, and financial risk of renovation. Depending on your situation, that trade-off can make a lot of sense. Also, factor in holding costs while you figure out what to do. Property taxes, insurance on a vacant home, which costs more than an occupied one, utilities, and basic maintenance like lawn care. Every month of delay has a real dollar cost attached to it. One more challenge that catches people off guard: what if there's still a mortgage on the property? When you inherit a home, you inherit whatever debt is attached to it too. Most mortgage loans have what's called a due-on-sale clause, meaning the full loan balance becomes due when ownership transfers. However, federal law, specifically the Garn-St. Germain Act, protects heirs in most cases, allowing you to assume the mortgage without triggering that clause as long as you intend to occupy the home. But if you're planning to sell, you'll need to pay off that mortgage from the sale proceeds. And if the home is underwater, meaning more is owed than it's worth, you may be dealing with a short sale situation, which is a whole separate conversation. Beyond the mortgage, check for other lines: unpaid property taxes, contractor lines, or even medical debt lines in some cases. A title search will surface all of these. Do it early so there are no surprises at closing. So let's bring this together. If you've inherited a property in Oregon, you generally have 4 paths. Move in. If you want to live in the home, you can assume the mortgage in most cases and make it yours. Get a proper title transfer completed through probate or trust. Rent it out. If the property could generate rental income, that's an option. But understand you're now a landlord with all the responsibilities that come with it, including Oregon's tenant protection laws, which are among the strongest in the country. Sell on the open market. If the home is in good condition and you want to maximize value, a traditional listing may be the right path. Work with a real estate agent who understands inherited property and probate sales. Sell as is. If the home needs work, there are multiple heirs, or you just want to resolve this quickly without the hassle, selling to a real estate solutions company like Vortex REI can get you a fair offer with no repairs, no commissions, and a timeline that works for your situation. Inherited properties are complicated, legally, financially, and emotionally. There's no one-size-fits-all answer, and anyone who tells you otherwise isn't giving you the full picture. What I can tell you is that the worst thing you can do is nothing. A vacant inherited property sitting in limbo costs money every month and creates legal exposure. The sooner you have a plan, the better the outcome, for you and for every heir involved. If you want to talk through your specific situation with no pressure and no obligation, give us a call at 503-308-9707 or visit vortexrei.com. We work with families across Oregon, navigating exactly these kinds of situations, and we're happy to help you figure out the right path forward, even if that path doesn't involve us. If this video was helpful, please like and subscribe. We put out new content every week focused on real solutions for Oregon homeowners. I'll see you in the next one.